Here are 5 accounts that I think you should have in case you're thinking about retirement or you're thinking about long term. You want to have money by the time you are 55 years, by the time you are 65 years. You don't want to worry about cash flow. These accounts will definitely help you. So the first one is a Treasury Bond. You can decide to go for a long-term Treasury Bond. So you're talking about 15 years, 18 years. I even saw there was a bond of 25 years. So you can even decide to go for that because now you're thinking about long term. Assuming that you are now 40 years old and you're thinking about 60 years old or when you're 65. So you can add 40 years to that. By the time you are retiring, you have your money back. And in the meantime, you're getting an interest. What's interesting with a treasury bond is that you need to have the money now. So we're not talking about you setting aside 10,000 Kenyan shillings every single month to invest here because it's not possible. We're talking about you having the lump sum now. So if you don't have that 1 million, that 3 million, that 5 million now, it's something that you need to build upon so that when you're buying a long-term bond, when you are retiring or when you are 60 years old or when you're 50 years old, you can get back that money as a lump sum. Something else that's interesting with a treasury bond is that let's say you go for, let's say a 15-year bond. What you'll notice with these long-term bonds, 15 years, 18 years, 22 years, is that they usually have a redemption structure. So even if you have 3 million now, and you decide to go for a bond, you're going to notice that probably this bond has a redemption structure where for half of the period, half of the 15 years, you're going to get back half the money that you invested, that you saved, that you set up. So after half of these years, that is 7.5 years, you're going to get back 1 million, 1.5 million, for example. And you're going to get back half, or rather half of that amount after another 7.5 years. So you can see that sometimes this might not be the best option for you because the law mandates or the policies of the treasury bonds are that way. So you might want to consider investing a huge sum of money right now, setting it aside. If you have 10 million, if you have 3 million, if you have 6 million, like think about those figures. Another thing that you're going to notice is with some of these long-term bonds, they usually have a structure such that if you're investing 1 million or less than that, you get the entire amount of money for half of the period. So you might be thinking about 15 years, but in actual sense, the bond might not go for 15 years if you don't have or if you haven't invested a certain amount of money. So that's something that you have to check on every bond that you're planning to invest in. But honestly, I think it's a great way to set aside money now that you might want in the future because you're going to be receiving interest every 6 months. And the interest that you make every 6 months, probably you can be adding it to your private pension scheme or to your rates, to your shares, reinvesting it back. So there's that continuous loop of reinvesting the interest that you make. The other interesting account or investment avenue that you might want to pursue is having a pension scheme in place, having a private pension scheme. Of course, we have NSSF, which is mandatory, but have one for yourself because there are some benefits that come with that in terms of taxation. Assuming that you set aside 30,000 Kenyan shillings max every single month to your private pension scheme, or let me just say 25K because the threshold is 30K, which is not taxed. That money goes to your pension scheme and it reduces the tax that you're going to be paying on a monthly basis. So it's a bonus for you. The thing about the pension scheme and what I find interesting about it is that once you attain that retirement age, you can get a lump sum. It can be like 30% of the amount of money that you've saved up for. You've saved up. So assuming that you saved, let me say 10 million because it's easier for me to calculate. So let's say you have 10 million in your private pension scheme by the time you are 60 years old. You can access something like a third of it as a lump sum, and the rest is going to be paid out on a monthly basis or depending on the structure that you've chosen for yourself. So yeah, it's a great way to set aside money. In terms of interest, it doesn't earn that much, because what you're going to notice is that with some of these private pension schemes, they have insurance policies. So that's something that you can also benefit on top, such that you can decide, okay, let me set aside something for my family members. In case something happens to me, someone else can benefit this money. Yeah. So they have insurance, especially when you approach them. They usually, some of them have the aspect of insurance. You can even get a lump sum, and the rest of the money that you're going to be receiving is going to be on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. That's something that you can choose for yourself. So I would definitely go for this. That is going to sort of like supplement the money that you have in your treasury bond. What do you think? The other long-term savings plan that you can decide to go for is an endowment insurance policy. This one allows you to save your money as you get the benefit of insurance. So what you do with this is that every single month you're going to be setting aside a certain amount of money, probably 10,000 shillings every single month for the next 20 years, for the next 10 years, and you have to contribute faithfully. It's long term, such that you can't access this money. You can't access this money if you try. Yeah, okay, there are certain cases where you can access this money, but it's after a certain period of time. Depending on the company that you're saving with, they can say after 3 years, then you can consider accessing your money. But remember, you're thinking about long term. So why would you want to access your money? Just save consistently every single month. Don't even think about touching that money. Don't even think about anything. Let that money just get off your payslip to this account. Again, this one has some aspect of insurance there, because you're saving. Your money is also earning interest, a little bit of interest. And there's also the benefit of, in case something happens to you, someone else can benefit. Your children can benefit. Your beneficiary, in short, can benefit. Whoever you've put up as your next of, not next of kin, but rather your beneficiary. The other account, or rather the other investment, is rental property. Yes, real estate, especially rental property, is a way of you earning income every single month without having to worry about other things. I'm not talking about there not being costs related to rental property. Of course, you have to hire somebody who's going to be taking care of this property, but I'm talking about you earning cash flow every single month in your lifetime, especially if it's a piece of property that you own. And again, it's something that you can leave for your children. So it can be a legacy that you've left for them. So assuming you have like 10M or you have 15M, you can decide to find a way to accumulate this money, probably in the next 10 years or in the next 5 years. Then you decide, okay, with this income that I have, let me have some rental property, such that in the next 10 years when I'm retired, I don't have to worry about income since I have rental income. This one is risky, but the returns are rewarding. The returns on treasury bonds are less. If I was to put it on a scale, these ones are less. I saw with some pension scheme, the returns were like 9%, 10% on top of your savings. For endowment insurance policy, again, the returns are less. I've done some videos on this. You can check one for the endowment insurance policy. I'm going to leave a link to that. I also have several videos on treasury bonds. You can check that out as well. And rental property, I bet you this one is going to be more, especially considering that you're 65 years old. You don't want to think about anything. You just want money deposited in your bank account and you can enjoy yourself. And hire other people to manage the rental property, a caretaker to look after that. But you get your money every single month. The other accounts that you might want to consider are real estate investment trusts or shares. I have done videos on real estate and shares. I'm also going to leave a link to that. The reason why I added them to the list is because of dividend income. You can always earn dividends from the companies that you've invested in. Remember, with REITs, the dividend is a must. It's a must. It's required by law. You can check out that video. It's a must. So depending on the number of units or shares that you've bought in a real estate investment trust, these are companies that manage real estate, you're going to be earning dividends. But one thing to note with these two, again, is that you're going to be receiving interest. You're going to be receiving your income, let me call it that, every let's say like every 6 months or twice a year or once a year. So this one is once a year. That is for REITs. This one is a must. For shares, again, it's tricky. It depends on which companies that you've bought stocks in. For example, banks have a history of paying dividends. This one you have to do further research. It requires you to be active again. If you've mastered the art of trading shares, this is something that you might want to do. But probably when you're 65 years old, 70 years old, you don't want to be trading shares. It depends. If you have an interest, this is something that you might want to consider. These ones are risky. Again, the income is sort of guaranteed, sort of not guaranteed, depending, but it's up to you to decide. Yeah. So if I was to choose between these five, if it were me, if I was to be the one, I'll definitely go for rental property. Yes, I don't have to buy the rental property now. At least this one, I have the surety of earning income every single month. I would also go for a private pension scheme, but for this, I'm not thinking about like really investment. Here, I'm talking about me having access to the money that I saved up. And I have the option of receiving it on a monthly basis. For Treasury Bonds, I receive income every 6 months. So I don't know, probably this is going to be like a bonus on top of these two. Check out my other videos on rates, endowment insurance policies, and treasury bonds. See ya.